With Lululemon, the real gift happens when they're living in it. When you give them the coziest scuba matching set, the real gift is this. And this. And this. This holiday, Lululemon makes it easy to give a gift that goes beyond. Open the moment. Shop now at Lululemon.com.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Hello, America. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. Glad to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425 if you'd like to be on the program with me. There's a lot happening right now. In fact, I've had to shake up the beginning of the show due to some breaking news. The United States government is reporting it has credible information that within the next 24 hours, Iran will be launching ballistic missiles at Israel. The United States is rallying to try to get a coalition of nations, much like the last time Iran went after Israel, to try to shoot down the missiles in addition to the Iron Dome. There are some reports that because of repositioning of American aircraft carriers into the Red Sea, there is not close air support from the U.S. Navy to be able to assist right now. A Western source says, unlike the April attack, this time Iran is expected to attack Israel only with ballistic missiles that reach Israel within 12 minutes and not with drones or cruise missiles that allow much longer preparation time for defense and interception. Now, a lot of people got a little freaked out about this. And, oh, my gosh, ballistic missiles, they're launching nukes? No. So a ballistic missile, unlike a cruise missile, a ballistic missile is not able to change course once launched, typically. It uses a parabolic curve. It launches under power. The power cuts off. The power is enough to get it in the air to get it where it's going. It goes up and then goes down. A cruise missile can redirect itself because it typically has sustained power while flying. They don't go as far. The ballistic missile, they go much further, but they have limited fuel. That's all the ballistic missile means. It's like, for example, when you fire a bullet, the bullet is inside surrounded by a casing into which the gunpowder is poured, and the bullet sits on top. When you fire the gun, it ignites the gunpowder and launches the ballistics, the gun, a bullet, out of the casing, and so the casing goes one way, the bullet goes straight from the gun. That's essentially what a ballistic missile is. And so it's the same way as if I don't recommend you do this because they do this on New Year's Eve night at midnight and on the 4th of July in neighborhoods near me. Don't point your gun into the air and fire the bullet because it will go up, but then it will come down as well. The bullets always come back down. It's the same thing. Now, we think of ballistic missiles as nuclear missiles because typically the missiles onto which we put our nuclear warheads are ballistic missiles. It's one reason why the hypersonic missiles freak everybody out. The hypersonic missiles are essentially a missile placed on a sled. The sled is launched, and it goes exceedingly fast and can be maneuvered in directions where it's not predictable. There's no parabolic effect. There's no predictable curve. So the hypersonic missile goes very fast, it can go out of the atmosphere, come back in, and then launches the missile off the platform. And you can't tell where is this missile going. We can't tell. Well, with this, even though the missiles will move very fast, like 12 minutes from Iran to Israel, you can, with computers, predict where the missile is going to go based on where it's launched, the angle that it's launched, etc. but it is a major escalation. When Iran launched last time, it sent drones and other things that moved slowly across Iran and Jordan, and they were easily intercepted in most cases and shot down. This is a greater escalation from Iran using all ballistic missiles. This is from Axios. Tehran's been vowing retaliation after a series of recent Israeli assassinations. The White House believes it's about to begin and is already warning of severe consequences for Iran. We are actively supporting defensive preparations to defend Israel against this attack. A direct military attack from Iran against Israel will carry severe consequences for Iran, a White House official said. A senior Israeli official tells Axios the latest intelligence is that the attack will be carried out in the next few hours. The warning from the U.S. came around noontime in Israel, 5 a.m. Eastern. A source with direct knowledge said the assessment in Israel and the United States is that the scope of the Iranian attack will be similar to Iran's first ever direct attack on Israeli territory last April, that drones and missiles were largely repelled by Israel and its partners led by the U.S. at that time. But another Western source with knowledge said, unlike April, Iran is expected to use ballistic missiles that could reach Israel, within 12 minutes, rather than drones or cruise missiles that allow for more time to prepare to defend and intercept them. The warnings of an imminent attack came just hours after Israel escalated its conflict with Hezbollah, the Iran-backed militia, by launching a ground invasion of southern Lebanon. Iran has been promising retaliation against Israel for 2 months, since the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. Iran has yet to respond to that attack. Now, there are a couple things you got to know here beyond this reporting. One is that Iran's partners, particularly Hezbollah, is wondering, why is it any good to be an ally of Iran if Iran is not going to be reciprocal and defend us? Iran looks very weak right now. Iran's got to do something to show it's got some strength, because the rumors of Iranian might are pretty big in the Middle East. They've got a massive army. They've got ballistic missiles. They're working on a nuclear program. They fund all these terrorists. But if they can't launch a credible response against Israel, the big enemy, they look really weak. Another thing you need to understand is that after Israel's incursion into Lebanon in the early 1980s and the rise of Hezbollah in response to it, there was an agreement reached to defuse the situation and move Israel back within its borders. And that agreement with Lebanon was that no weapons would be moved south of the Litani River. Now, the Litani River is the most important river in Lebanon. It starts in the Bekaa Valley, provides a lot of water and fertile soil from its runoff. And then towards the south, the river turns almost due west and provides almost a natural border. In fact, there's a bend in the river at its southern point that is not far from the northern tip of Israel, and then it shifts to the west. And the Litani River became a natural demarcation point after that de-escalation in the early 1980s, where everyone agreed no weapons between the border of Israel and the Litani River. No one will have armaments south of the Litani River. That included Hezbollah. Lebanon enforces this. Lebanon keeps a small military, and part of its goal is to enforce that no weapons can be south of the Litani River. In southern Lebanon, south of the Litani River, Israel has begun invading and going into the tunnels that Hezbollah has been building near the Israeli border. They've been blowing up the tunnels. When you watch the videos, and Israel has released drone footage, what you see is that when the tunnels explode, there are then subsequent explosions. Those are the weapons Hezbollah has been stockpiling south of the Litani River, underground, out of sight, waiting to use on Israel. Going into those tunnels and blowing them up is a strategic advantage for Israel. This is a major escalation. So my question, and I honestly, I don't know the answer to this. Does Iran have ballistic missile capabilities that can wreak havoc in Israel that the Iron Dome can't stop? They fired, if you'll recall the video, Iran fired at least one ballistic missile at Israel, and it was went outside the atmosphere, and there was an Iron Dome missile that intercepted it, and it was a remarkable explosion. I mean, it looked to be out of the atmosphere, an explosion that you could see. It was, I mean, honestly, it was kind of beautiful to watch. And I don't mean that beautiful in the destruction, just the way it fired. It looked almost like a computer-generated graphic you'd see in a sci-fi movie. It was kind of wild to see. We know that they fired a couple and they were intercepted, but if they're at scale, can this be done? Most of the drones and missiles in April were intercepted by the Israelis, the U.S., the British, the French, the Jordanians, and the Saudis outside of Israeli airspace. There were injuries in Israel. There were no fatalities at the time. Can Iran mount an offensive play against Israel? I don't know the answer to that, but we're about to find out, it seems. What is significant about this is that if Iran can't do it, they are a paper tiger. If Iran can't do it, you're probably going to see some rethinking of alliances. Remember, the Ukrainians the other day blew up a stockpile of Iranian missiles that had been handed over to the Russians. It didn't get a lot of reporting. The Ukrainians were able to document they were clearly Iranian missiles supplied to the Russians. If Iran can't do anything to Israel, it does make you wonder what's the relationship going to be like between Iran and Russia? What about Iran and China? The much heralded Iranian weapons program. What is the investment from these foreign adversaries of us going to look like in Iran? Likewise, what does it do to the Saudi-Israeli relationship? You know, the Saudis have actually more and more been making peace with Israel. More and more of the Saudis, they won't publicly come to terms with Israel. There's still no Israeli ambassador to Saudi Arabia like there is in the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and the like, but they've been drawing closer and closer to Israel. Iran launching ballistic missiles at Israel, in particular with Israel having the ability to shut them down, probably draws Saudi Arabia even closer to Israel because Saudi Arabia views Iran as a mortal enemy. The Iranians covet control of Mecca. The Iranians are Shiite. The Saudis are Sunni. It's like Catholics and Protestants, except they really hate each other. The Shiites believe that the descendants of the blood descendants of Muhammad must lead Islam. The Sunnis believe that the best religious clerics should lead Islam. It's a major divide. And it has shaped their theologies. It's shaped their outlooks. It's like, I mean, if you go back to 1066 or whatever, and the split between the Catholic and the Orthodox, or the Great Schism, whenever the Great Schism was, now I can't remember. I think 1066, the Norman Conquest. In any event, it's a theocratic divide. It's a geopolitical divide. And the Saudis have tried very hard to not be publicly aligned with Israel. But if Iran does have the capabilities to launch ballistic missile attacks at Israel, Israel has the capabilities of shutting them down and blowing up the missiles. Suddenly, the Saudis and the Israelis have reason to cooperate even more together to stop Iran. I can't emphasize this enough. Iran has got to have a show of force, because if it doesn't, its allies in Lebanon, in Hamas, in Syria, the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, they're all looking on Iran as some sort of power. If it proves to be an impotent power, that shakes up the landscape pretty significantly with Iran in the Middle East.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
Welcome back. Breaking news. There's been a terrorist attack in Tel Aviv. 2 terrorists have opened fire on Israelis. Multiple casualties. 10 injured so far. Now 17 injured, 5 dead, it appears, in Israel, just outside of Tel Aviv. It is happening now. It is dark and late there, but this sort of thing happening. So, interesting. Now I've gotta say, I am very interested in the dynamic between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Just as someone who grew up in the Middle East, like, for example, I've never been to Israel because when we lived there, you couldn't have an Israeli stamp in your passport to get back into a Middle Eastern country. You can now. There are now regular flights between Tel Aviv and Dubai. But Saudi Arabia is still a much more difficult situation. The sheikh there is I'm kind of fascinated by him. Young guy. He's the de facto ruler. He's been consolidating his power. He's got a terrible reputation in the West because of the Muslim Brotherhood guy, Khashoggi, who is heralded as a martyr by the media, but particularly wasn't. No, he should have been chopped to bits, like apparently he was, but he wasn't a great person, let's just be clear here, and was committed, it seems, to destabilizing Saudi Arabia. The Saudis are very worried about stability in the Middle East, particularly with the rise of Iran, in large part because Iran has been funding these groups around the Middle East to destabilize other regimes, very much taking a playbook from what the Russians have done. The Russians are funding different groups in the West to try to destabilize Western governments. It's happening here. I mean, a lot of people on social media that you are probably follow are, knowingly or not, we now know, getting money from the Russians to pursue Russian propaganda and push Russian propaganda. It's not for Trump or against Trump. It's to destabilize us and turn us against each other. The Iranians are doing the same thing in the Middle East, and they're trying to destabilize the Saudis. So Mohammed bin Saud is what's his name? Is working very hard to try to stabilize the regime, heavy-handed perhaps, but he's trying to avoid revolts over there that would destabilize the region. Now, I want you to go to Old Glory Bank. If you would do me a favor, get yourself a no-fee checking or savings account at Old Glory Bank. You can thank me later. You'll love the bank like I do. In fact, I like them so much, full disclosure, I've invested in the bank because I believe in their mission that much. It is a group of conservatives who formed a bank by conservatives for conservatives to fight the debanking trends that progressives are pushing on banking institutions. So a buddy of mine owns a gun store. I've referred him to Old Glory Bank for his business account because his regional bank dropped him explicitly because of his gun operation. So he moved to a national bank, which for reasons they won't explain decided to stop doing business with him. He's not going to have to worry about that with Old Glory Bank, and neither will you. Go to oldglorybank.com. oldglorybank.com. You can get an account in less than 6 minutes. Fill out the form online. They have great bill pay. They've got a great app, great debit card, great online budgeting tools. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. oldglorybank.com. Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I want to go to Gordy, calling from Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome to the show, Gordy.
Hey, how you doing, Eric?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. You are the most political, astute individual on the radio, And I wanted to get an answer to a question, and that is, isn't Israel part of the United Nations? And what about the rule, if you attack one of us, you're attacking all of us? So why don't we all retaliate?
Oh, you know that the UN doesn't care. I mean, the head of the teachers union for the United Nations Refugee Program turns out to have been Hamas's leader in Lebanon. If the UN is to attack, it's going to attack Israel. It's just a den of anti-Semites and crazy totalitarians. I think we should get out of the United Nations. If anything, we should take back the property in New York, hand it to Donald Trump, and let him develop it into something that'll make some money.
Yeah, and we're the only ones. I mean, not the only ones supporting it, but we are the fundamentally supporting the United Nations.
Yeah, you know, you're right. Go ahead.
When Putin was first going into Ukraine, and they're saying if he goes into Poland or if he goes into Germany or anything like that, look out, because you attack one of us, you're attacking all of us.
Yeah, but now that's NATO, not the United Nations.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're absolutely correct. That's what I was referring to, is NATO, not the UN.
Yeah, well, I mean, the UN's a garbage organization, and NATO's got its problems. But since Israel's not part of NATO, NATO's handles. Although I will say, behind the scenes, the French and the British, until the new prime minister took over, who's not big on Israel, but the French have actually been assisting us. What a lot of people don't realize is the Americans and the French have a military presence in Lebanon, training the Lebanese military, which it's not a very strong military, but historically the U.S. and the French have worked together. Lebanon used to be French territory. Great Britain had much of the territory south, but Lebanon had strong ties to the French. The French have maintained that. The French also have a strong relationship with Israel. So the British, the French, and the Americans, when Iran last attacked Israel, were in the air shooting down the missiles and the drones, working with the Jordanians and the Saudis and the United Arab Emirates. It doesn't get a lot of attention, but we've got a military base in the United Arab Emirates. We've got operations in Saudi Arabia as well as our Fifth Fleet station in Bahrain. So we've got a pretty broad investment in the Middle East, even as we're beginning to wind down in Iraq at the request of their government. So there will be a broad coalition of nations helping Israel against Iran. I can't stress enough to you that the Iranians are loathed even by the Iranian people. The Iranian government essentially holds their people hostage. And it's not a coincidence. There were parties in the streets in Tehran after the word came out that Nasrallah of Hezbollah had been killed. There were parties in Beirut as well. Despite what you hear from the anti-Semites in the press in the United States and on college campuses, there were massive parties in Lebanon and in Iran after the head of Hezbollah was killed, because those people are loathed by the ordinary citizens. Now, I got to move on to someone that we're all going to equally loathe here with what's happening here, and that is the head of the longshoremen union and the dock worker strike. So as of now, it appears the dock workers in the United States are going to strike. And it had been expected by everyone, because of the political ramifications, that Joe Biden would not allow the strike to go forward. The reason that Joe Biden would not allow the strike to go forward is obvious. One, it will hurt Kamala Harris if there's economic chaos, which it will cause. And two, given the situation in North Carolina, having the dock worker strike would not be wise given supplies. Harold Daggett is the head of the International Longshoremen's Association. And he is coming across in a way that makes it easy to vilify him because, well, you know, we've had a natural disaster. This is Daggett from just about a week ago talking about the effects of a strike in the East Coast dock workers.
What was the question again?
Well, it was just about, like, I remember, like, how significantly it impacted our businesses, like the supply chain, because I
glad you
live
brought that
on
up.
the Chesapeake
Let me
Bay,
explain
and all
something.
the ships were just waiting on the other
Liz,
side.
let me explain something to you. These people today don't know what a strike is.
Right.
When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you. Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the companies money to pay their salaries. Well, they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means.
Will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means as he puts his hands around his neck like he's choking himself. That's the head of this union. And the head of the union says this a week before a massive disaster in North Carolina, where in North Carolina they have serious problems. In North Carolina, there are major ramifications for needing supplies. They need supplies in North Carolina, and some of those supplies have to come through ports. A little more. This is again same guy talking to Fox.
They had the capital to settle this thing.
Are you worried that this strike is going to hurt the everyday American, the farmers that need to reach the export market? They're telling me that they're going to hurt through all
Now you
of
start
this.
to realize who the longshoremen are, right?
Nobody cares.
People never gave a about us until now, when they finally realized that the chain is being broke now. Cars won't come in. Food won't come in. Clothing won't come in. You know how many people depend on our jobs? Half the world. And it's time for them and time for Washington to put so much pressure on them to take care of us, because we took care of them. And we're here 135 years and brought them where they are today, and they don't want to share. And I'm done.
You know, we're having this resurgence of unionism on the left, and even some on the right. J.D. Vance, for example, big pro-union, doesn't really make me sympathetic to the union that they've decided to start the strike in the midst of this devastation in the Southeast and the Carolinas and Georgia and Florida. They've decided that they're going to strike. One more on this. Union president talking again to Fox News.
What is the number? What are you demanding?
We want $5 across the board for 6 years or better. Or better.
That's around.
And there's a lot more on the back end of our contract to make it stronger with automation, stronger words for new technology. We don't ever want to see an automation pier put over here in the United States.
We want our royalty back.
Yeah, and our container royalty. We want it all back to the men where it belongs. Take your time.
The White House has been involved over the weekend. The past
Secretary of Labor, Julie Sue, has been terrific. She's knocking down doors. She's trying to stop this. She's trying to get us to a media where we can have a fair negotiations. It's the companies that don't want to. They don't want to sit here and be fair. So that's why we're out here fighting for our livelihood.
What more from the automation do you want? What more protections could there be?
What more?
Yeah, they have language in there now.
Not strong enough, because what happens is they come in with new technology. We just caught them in Mobile, Alabama, called AutoGate, and that means the trucks are coming in and they're already checked in somewhere else and not using the checkers in the ILA. Circumventing the contract. They don't care. They don't care. It's not fair.
So I get the sentiment that they don't want further automation at the docks. But now if we get further automation at the docks, we can't be held hostage to a man who says he intends to cripple the American economy to get his way. That royalty on containers, essentially they want to get paid not just by the hour, but they also want a level of commission off of each container that comes in. This is about money, and they think that the companies have been bringing in too much money, and they want their quote-unquote fair share of it, and they're willing to wreck the American economy to get it. And Biden, for his part, everyone, myself included, I was telling a buddy of mine 2 days ago, of course he's going to stop this strike and have a cooling off period for 90 days because he doesn't want to hurt Kamala Harris. Doesn't seem like Biden at this point says he's going to. He said, quote, I don't believe in Taft-Hartley. He doesn't believe in a law in the United States that he could use to make the politics of this easier for Kamala Harris. If this guy wrecks the American economy, it's going to hurt Kamala Harris. It's going to help Donald Trump get elected. And these ports are going to further automate, as they probably should automate. Daggett, this is from the Wall Street Journal, rejected an offer late Monday of a 50% wage increase over 6 years. A boost from an earlier proposed 40% increase in wages, along with other improvement in benefits. The ILA wants to raise the base hourly rate for its 45,000 members from $65 to $69 an hour from $39 an hour, a 77% pay increase over 6 years as a condition to sit down to talk with maritime employers. They don't even want to start negotiating unless that's the beginning of it, an increase to $69 an hour. Dock workers typically earn six-figure annual salary because of work rules and overtime requirements. In the financial year that ended in 2020, more than half of 3,726 dock workers at the Port of New York and New Jersey earned more than $150,000 a year, according to the port's regulator. 1 in 5 dock workers earn over $250,000 that year. Dock workers late Monday gathered in groups, several hundred strong, outside closed port facilities, blasting rock music, smoking cigars, holding placards protesting the use of automated equipment on the docks, and waving American flags. I'm here to support the union and to support the middle class of America, says Matthew Drombrowski, a former Marine who works as a crane operator. We're fighting to go against automation. We're fighting to keep crane operators. The White House, which pressed the employer group on Monday to raise its wage offer from the 40% increase, is pushing the parties to reach an agreement on wages as business groups and Republican lawmakers have stepped up calls for the administration to invoke federal law to keep the ports open. Daggett says his workers deserve a share in the hundreds of billions of dollars the world's largest open ocean shipping containers made during the COVID-19 pandemic and more recent supply chain disruptions caused by war in the Middle East. They know my number. They don't want to deal with my number, and my number is not that bad. White House officials believe the impact on consumers will be limited for now, and they have so far discounted forcing dock workers back. The problem here is this affects the ports in Chesapeake Bay, Virginia, Wilmington, North Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, Jacksonville, Florida, up the eastern seaboard and the Gulf of Mexico, all shipment areas and ports where supplies are coming in for the relief effort for Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas for the hurricane and Western Virginia. On all of those ports and all the people there are going to be impacted, slowing down the recovery effort from the hurricane. And the president doesn't want to issue a 90-day pause to get us through the recovery period for the hurricane. Unreal. Hillsdale College would love to build a relationship with you. If you go to ericforhillsdale.com, you can start that relationship, and you get so much for free from Hillsdale College. It's been their mission since the 1800s. Take, for example, Larry Arndt's course on the constitutional formation of the Republic. In undergrad, my core concentration, my history major and political science major was in the Constitution. In law school, it was Constitution, and I actually learned from Larry Arndt's stuff that I thought I knew and didn't fully appreciate, and I got it for free from Hillsdale College. All you have to do is go to ericforhillsdale.com. You can start taking their course. You can subscribe to their podcast network. Get all their podcast conversations for free. Get Victor Davis Hanson's lecture series on citizenship that you do at your own pace. Subscribe to Imprimus. You get it all for free. It's not indoctrination. It's just legitimate education about parts of American history the left has tried to indoctrinate people on. You can learn the truth instead of the indoctrination. All you have to do is go to ericforhillsdale.com. Get it for yourself. Get it for a member of your family. Eric, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. Go build a relationship with Hillsdale College. Get real education. Get real truth about America. Breaking news, Iran has begun its attack on Israel. Hundreds of ballistic missiles in the air headed towards Israel. The video is just incredible, like shooting stars across the sky. Lots of interceptions. The entirety of Israel is targeted. North, south, east, west. The entire country's become a giant bomb shelter right now. Israel responding with its Iron Dome missiles, trying to keep up. Iran's strategy appears to be overwhelming the Iron Dome system by launching as massive a volume of missiles as possible. There's just insane footage. There was footage in Jordan of people sitting out as the sun rises, watching these what look like shooting stars going across the sky. And it is happening right now. It's 7:56 p.m. in Israel. I'm getting my time zones mixed up, so it's evening there, not morning. Duh. Sorry, I'm an idiot sometimes. So it's about 8 p.m. in Israel right now as these attacks are happening. People have been in outside cafes. People are rushing to bomb shelters right now. Also, Hezbollah has launched strikes on Haifa and Tel Aviv. There are terrorists in the streets of northern Israel with machine guns, according to reports, shooting at Israelis running to bomb shelters. This all happening now. Hezbollah launched a Fadi-4 missile at the military base. Interceptors attempting to hit the city. The Iron Dome took it out. Iran right now hoping combined between Hezbollah and Israel, they'll overwhelm the Iron Dome system. This is a very big issue as this situation deteriorates right now, live before us, with a massive volley of Iranian ballistic missiles launched at Israel. This is a escalation in the situation. The United States had tried to get Iran not to do this. Obviously, it failed. So we'll be paying attention to this for sure as ongoing. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. If you're buying a building, you need a heavy equipment loan, First Liberty, they make their own lending decisions. If you've got great credit, they can move very quick for businesses, not for individuals. Go to firstlibertyga.com, firstlibertyga.com. See if First Liberty is a good fit for you and you for them to help grow your business. Bringing you up to speed right now, Mark Zell, who is the vice president for Republicans Overseas and chairman of Republican Overseas Israel, is on Twitter saying there's a fourth wave of missile alerts in Jerusalem. Booms are louder. He has taken cover. Missiles are falling all over Israel, including the Negev. Explosions are still being heard. He is trying to watch his car from a shelter. This is happening right now. Iran launching missiles at Israel. The Iron Dome keeping up as best they can. There are fighter jets in the air as well trying to shoot down these missiles. All Israeli civilians are in bomb shelters right now.